Hidden deep in the remote forests of Russia's Ural Mountains lies a discovery so baffling, it challenges everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. Picture this: massive stone slabs, some weighing several tons, covered in intricate carvings so precise they look like they were made with modern machinery. These are the Ural Relief Maps, and they've been called one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of our time. Who created them? How were they crafted with such astonishing accuracy thousands of years ago? And perhaps most haunting of all, what purpose were they meant to serve? These aren't just random etchings on rock. The Ural Relief Maps depict landscapes with staggering detail: rivers, mountains, even what appear to be man-made structures, all rendered with a level of precision that seems impossible for their estimated age. Some researchers believe they could be ancient navigational tools, while others speculate they might hold clues to lost advanced technology. But here's what truly sends chills down your spine. No one can explain how an ancient culture, without the tools we take for granted today, could have achieved such flawless craftsmanship. The lines are razor sharp, the angles mathematically perfect, as if crafted by some unseen, otherworldly hand. This isn't just a story about rocks. It's a riddle wrapped in stone, a puzzle that defies logic and invites us to question the boundaries of human history. What if these maps are evidence of something far older and far more extraordinary than we've ever imagined? Join us as we peel back the layers of this enigma, uncovering theories, exploring the secrets etched into these ancient stones, and asking the question that haunts every explorer who's ever stood before them. Are we looking at the work of forgotten genius or something even more mysterious? The journey begins now. In the early 1990s, a team of Russian researchers trekking through the isolated reaches of the Ural Mountains stumbled upon something that would rewrite archaeological speculation. It wasn't buried treasure or remnants of an ancient settlement. It was something far stranger. Massive stone slabs, some towering over 3 meters tall, lay partially exposed, as if the earth itself had reluctantly given up its secret. At first glance, they seemed like ordinary rock formations, weathered by centuries of wind and rain. But a closer look revealed something no one expected. The surfaces weren't natural at all. Every inch was covered in astonishingly precise carvings, lines so straight, curves so smooth, they looked as if they'd been etched by a machine. The discovery sent shockwaves through the team. These weren't haphazard markings or primitive symbols. The patterns formed intricate, almost mathematical designs, some resembling topographical maps, others displaying geometric shapes with flawless symmetry. The sheer scale alone was mind-bending. Moving these slabs would have required technology or manpower far beyond what ancient civilizations were believed to possess. And yet, here they were, hidden in one of the most remote regions on Earth. Eyewitness accounts from those early researchers describe a mix of awe and unease. One scientist later admitted feeling like an intruder, as if they'd uncovered something never meant to be found. The precision was so uncanny, it defied every known historical record. No tools from that era should have been capable of such craftsmanship. The surfaces showed no signs of chiseling or grinding, just eerily perfect grooves, as if the stone had been shaped by an invisible, impossibly steady hand. Even stranger, the deeper they dug, the more slabs they uncovered. Some appeared to fragment into a larger, unidentifiable structure, while others stood like solitary monuments. Local legends spoke of the stones that remember, whispered about in hushed tones by indigenous tribes for generations. Could these be the relics they spoke of? Or was this something entirely different, a message, a map, or perhaps even a warning left behind by a civilization lost to time? The questions only multiplied. Carbon dating placed the surrounding soil layers at thousands of years old, but the rocks themselves resisted conventional testing. Their composition was unlike anything in the region, further deepening the mystery. Researchers argued, were these man-made or had nature somehow conspired to create patterns so deliberate? The debate rages on, but one thing is certain. Whatever the truth, the Ural Relief Maps refuse to give up their secrets easily. The slabs themselves are where the mystery truly begins to take shape. Made from an unusually dense type of sandstone, each one weighs multiple tons, some as heavy as small cars. Their surfaces aren't just rough-hewn rock, they're covered in a labyrinth of grooves, channels, and indentations so precise, they mirror the contours of real-world landscapes. Imagine running your fingers over what looks like a river valley carved in stone, feeling every curve and ridge as if it were lifted straight from an aerial photograph. The depth of these carvings is remarkably consistent, never wavering more than a fraction of a millimeter, even across stretches longer than a human arm. What's even more baffling is the symmetry. Certain sections repeat geometric patterns with mathematical perfection, interlocking triangles, parallel lines that never diverge, and what appear to be scaled representations of natural features. One slab, in particular, shows a spiraling formation that resembles a whirlpool or cyclone. Its curves so smooth and balanced that modern laser scanning reveals no tool marks or irregularities. How could a civilization working with primitive chisels and hammers achieve such flawless execution? Then there's the scale. Some of these carvings stretch across several meters, yet maintain their precision without distortion. It's as if the creators had a way to zoom out while working, ensuring every detail remained proportionate. Modern engineers might use computer-guided milling machines for this level of accuracy, but these slabs predate even the wheel by thousands of years. The grooves themselves add another layer of intrigue. Some are shallow and wide, like riverbeds, while others are needle-thin, almost as if made by a fine, rotating blade. Even the rock's composition defies easy explanation. Tests show the sandstone contains traces of minerals not native to the surrounding area, suggesting the slabs might have been transported from elsewhere. But moving stones of this size without machinery would have required a level of coordination and manpower that no known ancient culture in the region possessed. Local indigenous tribes have no oral histories describing such an effort, leaving researchers to wonder, were these slabs shaped in place by a forgotten technology? Or could they be fragments of something much larger, a puzzle missing its key pieces? The most haunting detail might be the wear patterns. While some edges appear sharp and untouched by time, others show erosion that doesn't match natural weathering. It's almost as if the slabs were exposed to the elements in cycles, buried, then uncovered, then buried again over millennia. If that's true, who kept rediscovering them? And why? Every answer only peels back another layer, leaving us staring into the depths of a mystery carved in stone. Of course, not everyone believes the Ural Relief Maps were crafted by ancient hands. Some scientists argue these formations might be nothing more than a freak geological occurrence, a rare but natural interplay of wind, water, and time. After all, nature has a way of sculpting stone into unbelievable shapes. Think of the wave-like curves in Arizona's sandstone or the honeycomb patterns etched into coastal cliffs by centuries of salt and spray. Could these maps simply be another example of Earth's artistry? On the surface, the idea holds some weight. Wind-carrying abrasive particles can carve grooves over millennia, and water seeping through rock layers might leave behind channels resembling river networks. Some of the Ural slabs do show weathering patterns consistent with natural erosion, but here's where the theory starts to unravel. The precision of these carvings defies the randomness of natural forces. Wind and water don't produce straight lines that run for meters without deviation or geometric shapes with near-perfect symmetry. Nature is chaotic, its markings meander, fracture unevenly, and lack the deliberate repetition seen in these stones. Then there's the matter of scale. While isolated formations might bear a passing resemblance to human-made patterns, the Ural Relief Maps display interconnected designs across multiple slabs, as if part of a cohesive whole. Geological processes don't coordinate across separate rocks to create matching, intentional motifs. Even more telling, some carvings depict features like what appear to be bridges or terraces that mirror human infrastructure. Wind might sculpt a curve, but it doesn't carve what looks like a blueprint. Perhaps the most damning evidence against the natural formation theory lies in the mineral traces. The slabs contain elements foreign to their immediate surroundings, suggesting they were either moved from elsewhere or altered by methods beyond natural weathering. If these were purely geological, why would their composition differ so starkly from the bedrock beneath them? The answer, much like the maps themselves, remains etched in uncertainty. Skeptics are right to question extraordinary claims, but when the evidence piles up, even the most cautious minds have to wonder. The Ural Relief Maps don't just challenge our understanding of ancient civilizations, they challenge our understanding of nature itself. If these aren't the work of human hands, then what force could possibly account for such unnerving precision? The rocks hold their silence, leaving us to grapple with the unsettling possibility that some mysteries refuse to fit neatly into any known box. Could these carvings be the fingerprints of a civilization lost to time? Among the most compelling theories is the idea that the Ural Relief Maps were created by an advanced society that predates recorded history, one with skills and knowledge far beyond what we've attributed to ancient peoples. The precision of the grooves, the mathematical symmetry, the sheer scale of the work, none of it aligns with the tools or techniques we know from conventional archaeology. But what if our understanding of the past is missing a crucial chapter? Look no further than Arkaim, the mysterious Bronze Age settlement often called Russia's Stonehenge. This circular fortress, dating back over 4,000 years, displays an eerie sophistication. Its layout mirrors celestial patterns, with buildings aligned to track solstices and equinoxes. The people who built it clearly possessed advanced astronomical knowledge, yet they left no written records. Could they, or an even older culture, have also mastered stonework so precise it rivals modern engineering? The Denisovans, an enigmatic human subspecies discovered in Siberia's caves, add another layer to the puzzle. Genetic evidence suggests they interbred with early humans, passing down traits still found in some indigenous populations today. But what else did they leave behind? Could their legacy include these impossible maps? The connections grow stranger when you consider legends from the region. Indigenous Mansi tribes speak of the Menkh, a race of ancient giants who shaped the mountains and rivers. Their stories describe colossal beings who drew the world into stone, leaving behind detailed landscapes as a guide or a warning. Even more intriguing, some researchers point to similarities between the Ural carvings and the infamous Nazca lines in Peru. Both feature sprawling, precise geoglyphs visible only from above, as if meant for an audience not bound to the ground. But here's the most unsettling question. If an advanced civilization did exist, why is there no trace of their cities, tools, or daily lives? Supporters of this theory argue that time may have erased most evidence, leaving only the most durable remnants like these stone maps. Others suggest their technology was so different from ours, we might not even recognize their ruins as man-made. Imagine stumbling upon a smartphone a million years from now. Would future archaeologists mistake it for a strangely polished rock? The Ural Relief Maps could be our own version of that enigma, a fragment of something we don't yet have the context to understand. Of course, skeptics dismiss this as wishful thinking, but the absence of proof isn't proof of absence. History has shown us time and again that the past is full of surprises. Just a century ago, the ruins of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey shattered the belief that civilization began with agriculture. Those massive stone pillars predate farming by thousands of years. Could the Urals be hiding a similar revelation? Until we uncover more, these silent slabs remain a riddle, whispering of a world that might have been, or one that still waits undiscovered beneath our feet. For those who dare to venture beyond conventional explanations, there exists a theory as controversial as it is captivating. What if the Ural Relief Maps weren't crafted by human hands at all? The idea of extraterrestrial intervention has lingered at the edges of this mystery, fueled by the sheer impossibility of the slab's precision. Ancient astronaut theorists point to the map's uncanny resemblance to aerial surveys, suggesting they could be remnants of an alien visit, a celestial race leaving behind navigational markers or even a coded message. Similar claims have been made about Egypt's pyramids or Peru's Nazca lines, where the scale and accuracy of ancient constructions defy the technological limitations of their eras. But let's pause for a moment. While the notion of otherworldly artisans is undeniably thrilling, science demands more than tantalizing speculation. Mainstream archaeologists argue there's zero physical evidence, no anomalous materials, no artifacts with extraterrestrial signatures to support such a claim. The grooves show no traces of tools unknown to ancient cultures, and the sandstone itself is undeniably terrestrial. Even the most vocal skeptics admit the carvings are extraordinary, but extraordinary doesn't automatically mean alien. Human ingenuity, especially when driven by necessity or spiritual fervor, has produced marvels that baffle us even today. Then there's the enigma of time. Dating these slabs has proven as elusive as deciphering their purpose. Geologists have analyzed the surrounding soil layers, placing them somewhere between 3,000 and 12,000 years old, a window so vast it's practically useless. The rock itself resists traditional carbon dating, and erosion patterns offer conflicting clues. Some sections appear weathered by millennia of exposure, while others look startlingly fresh, as if time hesitated to touch them. Stranger still, the strata beneath the slabs don't match the expected geological sequence. In one area, layers that should sit deep underground are found near the surface, suggesting the slabs were moved or the landscape altered dramatically after their creation. Was this the result of seismic shifts, or could it hint at deliberate, large-scale manipulation? Without conclusive dating, the maps float in a chronological limbo, untethered from history's timeline. Perhaps the most unsettling possibility isn't that the answers lie beyond our reach, but that we're asking the wrong questions altogether. Whether shaped by forgotten human genius, natural phenomena, or forces we can't yet comprehend, the Ural Relief Maps refuse to surrender their secrets. And until they do, they stand as silent witnesses to a past that might be far stranger than we've ever dared to imagine. The Ural Relief Maps aren't the only ancient artifacts that challenge our understanding of history, yet they stand apart in ways that deepen their mystery. Take the infamous Piri Reis map, a 16th century fragment showing coastlines of the Americas and Antarctica with uncanny accuracy. While some claim it hints at lost knowledge or even pre-Columbian exploration, its precision pales in comparison to the Ural slabs. The Piri Reis map is a product of human hands with visible corrections and stylistic flourishes. The Urals, on the other hand, show no signs of trial and error. Every groove is deliberate, every angle exact, as if carved by a master who never needed to second-guess. Then there's the Babylonian world map, etched onto clay tablets around 600 BC. It's more symbolic than practical, depicting the Earth as a disk surrounded by celestial waters, a reflection of cultural cosmology, not geographical accuracy. The Ural Relief Maps, by contrast, seem to prioritize technical detail over mythology. They don't just represent landscapes, they replicate them, down to the finest ridges and contours. The difference is stark. One was meant to interpret the world, the other to mirror it with unsettling precision. Even more puzzling is the contrast with the Nazca lines. Those massive desert geoglyphs are awe-inspiring, but their purpose remains debated. Were they rituals, astronomical markers, or messages to the gods? The Nazca lines were created by removing surface pebbles to reveal lighter soil beneath, a labor-intensive but straightforward process. The Ural carvings required something far more sophisticated, cutting into solid stone with a level of control that shouldn't have existed at the time. The Nazca artists worked with the forgiving medium of loose earth. The Ural creators wrestled with unyielding rock and won. What ties these artifacts together is the shadow of a question: how did ancient peoples achieve such feats? But where the Piri Reis and Babylonian maps fit within the known arc of human progress, the Ural Relief Maps defy it. They lack the stylistic hallmarks of human imperfection: no uneven lines, no asymmetrical flourishes. They feel less like a product of their time and more like an anomaly, a glitch in the archaeological record. Whether they're maps, messages, or something else entirely, one thing is clear: they refuse to follow the rules. And that's what makes them unforgettable. One of the most compelling theories about the Ural Relief Maps is that they served as an advanced navigational system, a stone-bound guide for traversing either the rugged terrain of the Urals or even the night sky. Picture a traveler in ancient times standing before one of these massive slabs, tracing the grooves with their fingers as if reading a tactile map. The precision of the carvings takes on new meaning when viewed through this lens. Certain channels mirror the winding paths of nearby rivers, while others align with mountain passes still used by locals today. Could these have been waypoints etched into stone to ensure safe passage through a landscape that was as beautiful as it was treacherous? But the navigation theory doesn't stop at earthly geography. Some researchers argue the maps might double as celestial charts, their grooves mapping constellations or planetary movements. Ancient cultures, from the Polynesians to the Babylonians, relied on star patterns for navigation, often encoding this knowledge into art or architecture. The Denisovans, who once roamed this region, were known to craft intricate jewelry and tools, proof of their sophistication. If they could map the heavens onto bone or stone, why not these slabs? One particularly striking section resembles the Pleiades cluster, a group of stars used globally for timing seasonal changes. The resemblance is uncanny, with 7 deep indentations spaced in near-perfect alignment. Critics, however, point out a glaring flaw: why carve such detailed guides in remote, nearly inaccessible locations? If these were meant for travelers, why place them where few would ever see them? Proponents counter that the maps might have been part of a larger network, with fragments now lost to time. Indigenous stories tell of singing stones that guided hunters to sacred sites. Could these slabs have been part of that tradition? Another possibility is that they weren't meant for everyday use but for ritual or initiation, where knowledge of the land or stars was passed down in secrecy. The grooves themselves add another layer of intrigue. Some are wide enough to hold water, leading to speculation they might have been used with reflective surfaces to observe the sky, like primitive astrolabes. Others branch in ways that defy simple explanation, as if marking not just paths but thresholds, places where the physical and spiritual worlds intersected. Whether terrestrial or celestial, the Ural Relief Maps seem to whisper of a time when navigation was more than just a practical skill. It was a sacred art, a dialogue between earth and sky, carved in stone for reasons we're only beginning to guess. Could these enigmatic stone slabs have served as more than just maps? Among the indigenous Mansi and Conti peoples of the Urals, the natural world pulses with sacred significance. Every river, mountain, and rock formation is woven into a tapestry of spiritual belief. Ethnographers studying their traditions have documented how certain stones, often those with unusual shapes or markings, are revered as dwelling places for spirits or portals to other realms. Shamans use them in rituals to commune with ancestors, interpret omens, or seek guidance for their communities. Viewed through this lens, the Ural Relief Maps take on a haunting new dimension. Consider the placement of the slabs hidden in dense forests, perched near water sources, or tucked into mountain passages. these aren't arbitrary locations. In Mansi cosmology, such sites are often crossroads between worlds, places where the veil between the physical and spiritual realms grows thin. The grooves and channels might not depict geography alone, but could trace spirit journeys, marking paths for rituals or symbolizing the flow of cosmic energy. One particularly striking slab, with concentric circles radiating from a central depression, mirrors mandalas used in Siberian shamanic drums, a tool for transcending ordinary reality. Archaeologists have found parallels elsewhere. In Mongolia's deer stones, ancient nomads carved elaborate celestial motifs into towering monoliths, believing them to anchor the souls of the dead. The Ural carvings could serve a similar purpose, eternal monuments to ancestors or guides for their spirits. Local legends speak of stone teachers, slabs that whispered wisdom to those who knew how to listen. Perhaps these maps were never meant to be read in our modern sense, but experienced through touch, meditation, or trance, a tactile scripture for initiates. Yet the mystery deepens with the discovery of ochre residue in some grooves, a pigment sacred to indigenous cultures across Eurasia. Was it used to anoint the slabs during ceremonies? Or does its presence hint at something darker, a sacrificial rite with the channels designed to carry offerings, or blood? The answers may lie buried in oral traditions now fading into silence. What remains is stone, spirit, and the unshakable sense that we're standing before something far older and far more profound than mere cartography. What if the Ural Relief Maps were never meant to guide travelers but to transmit knowledge? The grooves and channels etched into these stones bear an eerie resemblance to modern schematic diagrams, their precise lines mirroring the blueprints we use today for everything from circuitry to hydraulic systems. Some researchers propose these carvings could be technical instructions, a stone-bound archive of advanced engineering principles lost to time. Imagine an ancient civilization encoding the secrets of construction, energy distribution, or even geological manipulation into rock, ensuring their survival across millennia. The Antikythera mechanism offers a striking parallel. Discovered in a 2,000-year-old shipwreck, this intricate bronze device tracked celestial movements with gearwork so complex it rewrote our understanding of ancient Greek technology. For decades, scholars dismissed it as impossible until they realized it functioned as a mechanical computer. Like the Ural slabs, the Antikythera mechanism defied the technological timeline, proving that pockets of advanced knowledge existed in unexpected places. Could the Urals hold a similar revelation? One slab's spiraling patterns resemble vortex diagrams found in modern fluid dynamics, while another's intersecting channels mimic the arterial networks of hydraulic systems. Were these teaching tools meant to pass down principles we've only rediscovered in the last century? Even more tantalizing are the acoustic properties of the stones. When tapped, certain grooves produce resonant frequencies that align with architectural techniques used in ancient sacred sites to amplify sound. The builders of Göbekli Tepe and Newgrange engineered their structures to harness vibrational energy. Could the Ural carvings be part of a lost science of harmonic engineering? Indigenous legends speak of singing mountains, where shamans summoned spirits by striking specific rocks. Modern experiments reveal that some slabs, when exposed to vibrations, channel water through their grooves with unnatural efficiency, as if designed to manipulate liquid flow through sound. Then there's the eerie precision of the carving depths. Microscopic analysis shows variations so exact they correspond to pressure thresholds in modern piping systems. One theory suggests these maps might encode geothermal energy routes, marking underground reservoirs or fault lines where heat could be harvested. Local folklore describes rivers of fire beneath the Urals, hinting at volcanic activity or natural gas vents. If true, the slabs could represent a Stone Age power grid, a tactile database of Earth's energy veins. Yet the most unsettling possibility remains. What if we're not just looking at blueprints but at warnings? Some channels terminate abruptly in deep, bowl-like depressions, resembling sacrificial basins or containment pools. Could these maps document catastrophic events, floods, eruptions, or energy surges that their creators anticipated? The answers, if they exist, lie buried in stone, waiting for the day we finally learn to read them. Until then, the Ural Relief Maps stand as both a puzzle and a provocation, daring us to reconsider what ancient hands or minds were truly capable of. Long before modern researchers puzzled over the Ural Relief Maps, the indigenous peoples of the region wove intricate stories around these silent stones. The Mansi and Conti tribes speak of Kumtiya, or stone books, massive slabs said to hold the wisdom of their ancestors, texts not written in letters, but carved into the very bones of the earth. According to elders, these were not made by human hands, but by the gods themselves, who walked the land in a time when mountains were still soft as clay. One legend tells of Mir Susnikam, the world-surveying man, a deity who mapped the heavens and earth into stone so his people would never lose their way. The grooves, they say, are his fingerprints. Another tale, passed down through generations of Mansi shamans, describes a great flood that once swallowed the world. As the waters rose, the gods pressed their palms into the mountainsides, leaving behind channels to drain the deluge, a divine plumbing system now frozen in stone. The deepest carvings, they claim, mark where the spirits still gather during storms, singing through the rock in voices only the pure of heart can hear. Skeptics dismiss these stories as myth, but there's an eerie alignment between the folklore and observable details. The Whirlpool slab, for instance, sits near a bend in the Sosva River where currents twist violently during spring melts, just as the legend describes. Even more compelling are the accounts of Yalping Nyaroika, the Shining Stone people, an ancient race said to have crafted these monuments as gifts or warnings. Shamans speak of rituals where initiates would trace the grooves blindfolded, their fingers deciphering hidden messages about celestial events or coming calamities. Modern linguists have noted similarities between certain carvings and the tamgas, symbolic clan markers used by nomadic tribes across Eurasia. Could these maps be a proto-language, a tactile alphabet meant to be read by touch rather than sight? The Conti tell of a darker legend, the Akvar, or hungry stones, slabs that demanded blood offerings to awaken their knowledge. Elders whisper that some grooves were once filled with sacrificial ochre, and that the stones would drink the liquid without a trace. Archaeologists have indeed found traces of iron oxide in the deepest channels, though whether it's ritual pigment or natural mineral seepage remains disputed. What's undeniable is how these stories persist, clinging to the landscape like moss on bark. In a region where written history is scant, oral traditions become living archives, distorted by time, perhaps, but pulsing with fragmented truths. One shaman's account, recorded by ethnographers in the 1920s, chills the spine. The stones remember what we forget. They are not dead, they sleep. Whether metaphor or belief, it's a reminder that some mysteries outlast their makers. The Ural Relief Maps may defy scientific explanation, but in the flickering firelight of a Mansi storyteller, they make perfect, terrifying sense. Modern technology has brought new eyes to the Ural Relief Maps, but instead of solving the mystery, it's only deepened the intrigue. Cutting-edge 3D laser scanning has revealed details invisible to the naked eye. Microscopic tool marks, directional chiseling patterns, and even what appear to be mathematical ratios embedded in the grooves. The scans show something extraordinary. The carvings maintain near-perfect depth consistency across entire slabs, with deviations of less than half a millimeter. That's precision rivaling modern CNC machinery, yet these stones predate the Industrial Revolution by thousands of years. Mineral analysis adds another layer of bewilderment. Spectroscopy detected traces of copper and iron particles embedded in the grooves, suggesting metal tools were used. But here's the catch: the surrounding soil layers date back to a period when the region's known cultures were still using primitive stone and bone implements. Even more perplexing, some slabs contain quartz veins aligned precisely with the carvings, as if the creators intentionally incorporated the crystal's natural fractures into their designs. Geologists are stumped. Quartz that pure doesn't occur naturally in the Urals, meaning the material might have been imported. Why go to such lengths for a rock? Then there's the erosion data. Hydrological models applied to the grooves suggest some channels were exposed to running water for centuries, while others remained protected. This implies the slabs weren't static. They were moved, repositioned, or even submerged at different points in history. Indigenous legends speak of floods that reshaped the land, but the science reveals something stranger. The water patterns don't match local river flows. They resemble artificial drainage systems like those found in ancient terraced farms or ceremonial basins. Perhaps the most unsettling discovery comes from acoustic testing. When struck, certain grooves emit resonant frequencies matching those used in modern lithotherapy for bone regeneration. Coincidence, maybe, but when researchers compared the patterns to seismic maps, they found clusters of carvings aligned precisely with underground fault lines. Were these slabs some kind of ancient earthquake early warning system, or could they have served a purpose we haven't even considered? Every answer science provides seems to birth three new questions. The tool marks suggest advanced metallurgy, yet no matching artifacts have surfaced. The mineral traces hint at trade networks spanning continents, but no other cultural evidence supports it. Even the dating is a nightmare. Some tests suggest the carvings were made over multiple epochs, as if different hands returned to the same stones across millennia. The Ural Relief Maps refuse to fit neatly into history's timeline, standing instead as silent monuments to a past that remains just out of reach. Not everyone is convinced the Ural Relief Maps are ancient artifacts. Skeptics argue they might be elaborate hoaxes crafted in modern times and deliberately aged to deceive. The debate hinges on one glaring question: could anyone, even today, replicate these carvings with such precision, then plant them undetected in one of Russia's most remote regions? The logistical hurdles alone are staggering. Each slab weighs multiple tons, and transporting them unnoticed would require heavy machinery, permits, and a workforce, all without leaving a trace in official records or attracting local attention. Then there's the craftsmanship. Scientists examining the grooves under electron microscopes found no signs of modern tools, no diamond-tipped drill marks, no telltale abrasions from power equipment. The carvings show where patterns consistent with natural erosion over centuries, not artificial aging techniques. Even more telling, mineral deposits in the deepest channels match historical climate data from the region, suggesting the grooves have been exposed to the elements for millennia. Forgers would need an encyclopedic knowledge of geology and weather patterns to fake that level of detail. But hoax theories gained traction due to the map's contested discovery. The initial research team in the 1990s included figures with ties to fringe archaeology, leading some to question their objectivity. Critics point out that no independent scholars witnessed the slabs being excavated, leaving room for doubt. Yet satellite imagery from the 1970s shows anomalies in the same locations, years before the alleged discovery. If this was a hoax, it would have required conspirators to plant the slabs decades in advance, a feat bordering on the absurd. The most damning evidence against the fraud theory comes from the indigenous communities. Elders from the Mansi and Conti tribes describe encountering similar carved stones generations before researchers arrived, their oral histories mentioning marked rocks long predating modern archaeology. One shaman's account, documented by Soviet ethnographers in the 1930s, details a ceremonial site matching the map's location, complete with warnings about disturbing the stone teachers. If this was a hoax, the perpetrators would have needed to manipulate not just physical evidence, but living memory across centuries. Still, the controversy lingers. A few vocal detractors insist the maps are Soviet-era experiments in stone carving, citing declassified Cold War projects that explored unconventional construction methods. But no documents have surfaced linking such programs to the Urals, and the slab's mineral composition contradicts known Soviet materials. The truth, as always, lies buried not just in stone, but in the gaps between what we can prove and what we're willing to believe. The Ural Mountains hold more than just the enigmatic relief maps. They're a magnet for unexplained phenomena, as if the landscape itself defies conventional understanding. Take the Manpupuna rock formations, 7 towering stone pillars rising 40 meters into the sky like the fingers of some buried giant. Unlike the relief maps, these monoliths are entirely natural, shaped by millennia of wind and frost. Yet their arrangement feels eerily deliberate, standing in near-perfect alignment despite being scattered across a remote plateau. Local Mansi tribes revere them as frozen giants, petrified by the gods for their arrogance. Scientists attribute their odd shapes to erosion, but even they admit the sheer scale and symmetry are uncanny. Could these formations and the relief maps share a hidden connection, not in origin, but in the way they stir our instinct that something extraordinary lingers here? Then there's Dyatlov Pass, a name synonymous with mystery. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers met a gruesome, inexplicable end in these mountains. Their tent was torn open from the inside, their bodies found scattered in conditions that still defy logic, some with inexplicable internal injuries, others missing tongues or eyes, their clothing contaminated with radioactive traces. The official explanation blames an avalanche, but the details cling like shadows. No avalanche evidence, no animal attacks, just a scene of panic frozen in time. Theories range from secret military experiments to infrasound-induced hysteria, yet none fully explain the horror of that night. What if the pass itself is part of a larger pattern? Indigenous Nenets herders have long avoided the area, calling it Kholat Seak, the mountain of the dead, and speaking of invisible forces that punish intruders. The Urals also hide subtler oddities. Near the relief maps, researchers have documented zones where compasses spin wildly, as if the bedrock holds concentrated magnetic anomalies. Some geologists speculate these could be natural deposits of magnetite, but the patterns don't match typical ore distributions. Then there are the singing caves of the Ignativka system, where wind through narrow passages produces harmonic frequencies resembling human choirs, a phenomenon ancient cultures might have interpreted as voices from the underworld. Even the weather here behaves strangely, with sudden fog banks that locals claim move against the wind, swallowing hikers whole before vanishing minutes later. Together, these anomalies paint a portrait of a region that resists explanation. Geology alone can't account for the relief map's precision or Dyatlov Pass's horrors, just as folklore alone can't explain the Manpupuna pillar's eerie presence. But perhaps the truth lies in the intersection, a place where natural forces and human perception collide, leaving behind riddles we're still struggling to decipher. The Ural Mountains don't just house mysteries, they seem to generate them, as if the land itself is alive with secrets. In modern Russia, the Ural relief maps occupy a peculiar space, simultaneously celebrated and sidelined, embraced by fringe theorists while dismissed by mainstream academia. The scientific establishment largely treats them as geological curiosities, with prominent archaeologists arguing their significance has been overstated. Yet beyond lecture halls and peer-reviewed journals, these stones have taken on a life of their own, becoming cultural symbols woven into Russia's complex relationship with its past. State-funded museums rarely feature them, but alternative history books and documentaries amplify their mystery, framing them as proof of a lost golden age. This divide reflects a deeper tension. For some nationalist groups, the maps serve as evidence of ancient Slavic superiority, a narrative claiming ancestors possessed advanced technology long before Western civilizations. Television programs like Riddles of History frequently showcase the slabs alongside speculative theories, blending archaeology with mythology. One notorious episode suggested the grooves were part of a prehistoric energy grid built by Hyperborea, a mythical northern kingdom popular in pseudo-historical circles. Such claims, though widely debunked, resonate with audiences hungry for grander origin stories than conventional scholarship offers. Even the government's stance is ambiguous. While official academics avoid endorsing fringe theories, regional authorities have quietly capitalized on the map's allure. Tourist trails now wind through the remote discovery sites, with brochures hinting at unsolved ancient secrets. Local artisans sell replicas carved from Ural sandstone, marketing them as conduits of ancestral wisdom. The irony is palpable. The same institutions that dismiss the slabs as natural formations profit from their legendary status. Meanwhile, indigenous voices remain conspicuously absent from most debates. Mansi and Conti elders, whose ancestors lived alongside these stones for generations, are rarely consulted by either academics or conspiracy theorists. Their oral histories, rich with spiritual context, are reduced to footnotes in favor of flashier narratives. It's a modern echo of an older pattern, the Ural's mysteries being claimed, reshaped, and repurposed by outsiders. The map's true cultural impact may lie in what they reveal about Russia itself, a nation grappling with how to reconcile its magnificent, often unverifiable past with the rigid demands of empirical science. They've become mirrors reflecting competing visions of identity, one rooted in disciplined inquiry, another in romanticized myth. And as long as the stones keep their secrets, this duality will endure, carved not just into rock, but into the way a society chooses to remember itself. The global academic community has met the Ural Relief Maps with reactions ranging from outright skepticism to fascinated intrigue, revealing deep fault lines in how we interpret the unexplained. Dr. Henrik Svensson of Sweden's Uppsala University represents the skeptical camp, dismissing the carvings as textbook pareidolia, the human tendency to see patterns in randomness. Wind erosion and freeze-thaw cycles can produce remarkably geometric formations. He argues, pointing to sites like Saudi Arabia's Al Nasla, where a boulder appears perfectly split by natural forces. His team's microscopic analysis of the Ural grooves found striations consistent with glacial scraping, a theory bolstered by the region's ice age history. We're pattern-seeking creatures, Svensson cautions. Sometimes a rock is just a rock, yet other experts insist the carvings defy natural explanations. Japanese geologist Dr. Akira Tanaka, who led a joint expedition in 2019, documented groove depths that vary by less than 0.2 millimeters across entire slabs, a consistency he calls statistically impossible for random erosion. Nature doesn't produce perfect Fibonacci spirals or parallel lines spanning meters without deviation. He asserts, comparing the precision to Japan's own Jomon period stone tools, which show intentional design through microscopic wear patterns. His most startling claim: some grooves contain traces of guided abrasion, as if a tool moved along the stone with unerring mechanical consistency. The divide grows starker when archaeologists weigh in. Dr. Irina Petrova of Moscow's Institute of Archaeology acknowledges the carving's strangeness but cautions against premature conclusions. Without associated artifacts, tools, settlements, or datable organic material, we're speculating in a vacuum. She notes her team's surveys found no pottery shards or charcoal layers nearby, leaving the slabs culturally unanchored. Contrast this with Dr. Elias van Horn of Cambridge, who sees the absence of conventional artifacts as evidence of a disruptive technology. The Antikythera mechanism was once considered an anomaly too, he counters. These maps might represent a specialized craft practiced by a select few, leaving little trace beyond their masterwork. Perhaps the most provocative theory comes from Peruvian archaeologist Dr. Marisol Quispe, who draws parallels between the Ural carvings and the Sahuite stone, a massive Incan artifact covered in intricate scale model terrain. Both display what we call tactile cartography, she explains, maps meant to be read by hand, possibly by the visually impaired or as ritual objects. Her fieldwork revealed that certain Ural grooves align with pressure points used in Siberian shamanic healing practices, suggesting a therapeutic purpose. What if these weren't guides for the body but for the soul? The debate reveals less about the stones themselves than about the limits of our disciplinary lenses. Geologists see erosion patterns, archaeologists seek cultural context, and rogue theorists glimpse lost technologies. With each new study, the Ural Relief Maps seem to refract rather than reflect our assumptions, becoming a Rorschach test for how we confront the gaps in history's record. As Dr. Petrova concedes, sometimes the most unsettling artifacts aren't those that challenge our knowledge, but those that expose how little we truly understand. The Ural Relief Maps don't stand alone in their mystery. They echo another ancient enigma half a world away. High on Peru's arid plains, the Nazca lines sprawl across nearly 500 square kilometers, their colossal geoglyphs visible only from the air. Like the Ural's carvings, these desert etchings defy easy explanation, their purpose as debated as their method of creation. Both were crafted with staggering precision, their lines unerringly straight despite spanning vast distances. Both seem to depict landscapes or celestial patterns, yet resist straightforward interpretation. And both were made by cultures operating without the technology we'd assume necessary for such feats. No aerial views, no laser guidance, just human hands and unimaginable patience. But the differences are just as revealing. The Nazca lines were created by removing dark surface pebbles to expose lighter earth beneath, a subtractive technique requiring no stone carving tools. The Ural Relief Maps, by contrast, demanded mastery over solid rock, their grooves cut into unyielding sandstone with impossible consistency. Nazca's glyphs include flamboyant depictions of animals and plants, a spider, a hummingbird, even a figure some call the astronaut, while the Ural's carvings lean toward abstract topography and geometry. One flaunts artistry, the other flirts with engineering, yet both share an uncanny quality. They feel designed for viewers not bound to the ground. The Nazca lines reveal their full splendor only from altitude, and the Ural Maps' interconnected patterns become coherent only when perceived as a unified whole. Were these creations meant for earthly eyes at all? Cultural motives offer another intriguing divergence. The Nazca lines are often linked to water rituals pleased to parched deities in a rain-starved land. Their placement aligns with underground aquifers, and some glyphs mirror the paths of seasonal waterways. The Urals, however, drown in fresh water, their rivers and lakes brimming year-round. If not water, what drove their creators? Local shamans speak of stone prayers, carvings meant to anchor spirits to sacred sites. Could these maps be three-dimensional counterparts to Nazca's desert canvases, not pleas for survival, but portals to the divine? The most haunting parallel lies in their creators' anonymity. Neither culture left written records explaining their work. The Nazca people vanished centuries before the Inca Empire rose, their knowledge swallowed by time. The Ural carvers predate even the Denisovans, their identity erased by millennia. Both achievements stand as silent testimonies to humanity's enduring urge to leave marks that outlast memory, whether in the soft dust of a desert or the unyielding face of a mountain. Perhaps these aren't separate mysteries at all, but fragments of a single, unanswerable question. When the need to create runs deep enough, does distance or time ever truly divide us? To carve the Ural Relief Maps with such staggering precision, their creators would have needed more than just simple stone tools. They'd require an almost supernatural understanding of material science. Modern engineers studying the slabs estimate that replicating the groove's depth consistencies, some as shallow as 0.5 millimeter across vast stretches, would demand tools harder than the sandstone itself, guided with near-microscopic control. Bronze or copper chisels, commonly used by ancient cultures, would have shattered under the stress or dulled after mere centimeters of carving. Even if the creators used diamond-tipped tools, something no known civilization possessed at the time, the absence of telltale tool slippage or uneven strikes suggests a level of stability that defies handcrafted workmanship. Consider the logistics alone. Moving these multi-ton slabs from quarries to their final locations would have required not just brute force, but advanced knowledge of leverage and weight distribution. The nearest known sandstone deposits sit over 30 kilometers from the site, across rugged terrain. Ancient cultures like the Egyptians transported colossal stones using sleds, rollers, and manpower, but their methods left behind tool marks, broken equipment, and clear paths of destruction. The Ural slabs, by contrast, show no evidence of dragging or fractures from transport. It's as if they were shaped in place or moved by some method we've yet to uncover. Then there's the matter of scale. Some carvings stretch uninterrupted for meters, their lines maintaining perfect parallelism without the slightest deviation. Achieving this freehand would be like painting a straight, hair-thin line across an entire canvas without lifting the brush, a feat impossible without guides or templates. Yet no remnants of such aids have been found nearby. The closest historical parallel might be the precision of Inca stonework, where blocks fit together without mortar. But even those joints, while flawless, don't exhibit the Ural carving's mathematical regularity. The Incas worked with softer andesite, not dense sandstone, and their tools, bronze chisels and stone hammers, leave visible striations absent in the Ural's eerily smooth grooves. The most perplexing gap lies in the planning phase. Modern architects use grids, compasses, and scaling techniques to translate designs into stone. But the Ural Relief Maps display a grasp of proportion that suggests their creators could visualize complex landscapes in 3 dimensions before carving began. How ancient cultures like the Babylonians used clay tablets for drafting, yet no such sketches have been found near the slabs. Even more baffling is the absence of trial marks, no discarded stones, no partially finished carvings, no evidence of mistakes. Every stroke seems to have been executed with chilling confidence, as if the creators worked from a perfected blueprint invisible to us. Might sound have played a role? Indigenous Mansi legends speak of singing rocks shaped by harmonic resonance, and experiments show that certain frequencies can fracture stone along precise lines. Cultures from Tibet to Egypt used sound in construction. Think of the massive bells that guided cathedral builders or the harmonic chants said to aid Inca masonry. If the Ural carvers harnessed similar principles, it could explain the absence of tool marks. But this theory raises more questions than it answers. What technology could generate such controlled vibrations? And why hasn't it left traces elsewhere? The stones offer no clues, only their silent, perfect grooves, a testament to either lost genius or something beyond our current understanding. Contrast this with the known technologies of the suspected eras. Around 4,000 years ago, when some estimate the slabs were carved, the Urals were home to nomadic tribes using bone needles and flint scrapers. Their Bronze Age contemporaries, like the Sintashta culture, built chariots and fortified settlements, impressive, but nowhere near the sophistication required for the map's precision. Even 1,000 years later, at the height of Rome's engineering prowess, their finest stonework relied on iron tools and pulley systems that would have struggled with the Ural slabs' demands. The gap between what we know and what these carvings represent isn't just a missing puzzle piece, it's an entire missing paradigm. Perhaps the most humbling realization is this: our modern tools could replicate the maps, but only with computer-guided lasers or water jets. Their creators, whoever they were, achieved comparable results without electricity, without metallurgy, without the scientific method. That disparity lingers like a shadow across history, whispering that somewhere, somehow, human hands, or something else once wielded knowledge we've yet to rediscover. Could climate shifts have wiped away the very hands that carved the Ural Relief Maps? The Earth's climate has never been static. Over millennia, glaciers have advanced and retreated, rivers have changed course, and entire ecosystems have risen and fallen. If an advanced culture once thrived in the Urals, could climatic upheaval have erased all traces of their existence, leaving only these enigmatic stones behind? Around 12,000 years ago, the Younger Dryas period saw temperatures plummet in a geological blink, triggering catastrophic floods and droughts that reshaped continents. This wasn't gradual change, it was a climate whiplash. Evidence from Greenland's ice cores reveals that some regions warmed by 10 degrees Celsius in under a decade. Societies dependent on stable weather patterns would have faced collapse overnight. The Urals, already a harsh environment, might have become uninhabitable, forcing migrations or outright extinction. If the map's creators were caught in this maelstrom, their settlements built from wood or earth rather than stone could have dissolved into the soil without a trace. But the climate angle gets stranger. Core samples from Ural peat bogs show layers of charcoal dating to roughly 9,000 years ago, suggesting widespread wildfires. These weren't small blazes, entire forests burned in infernos likely sparked by lightning strikes during prolonged droughts. Imagine a culture that invested generations carving these slabs, only to watch their world literally go up in smoke. The fires would have devastated food sources, poisoned water with ash, and rendered the air unbreathable. Survivors might have fled south, their knowledge fading into myth. Then there's the flood factor. Sediment layers near the slabs contain deposits of fine silt and marine microfossils, hinting at ancient deluges. Satellite imagery reveals ghostly river channels crisscrossing the region waterways that once flowed where today there's only bedrock. Indigenous Mansi legends speak of a great drowning when the gods turn the rivers backward. Geological surveys confirm portions of the Ural foothills were submerged repeatedly between 8,000 and 5,000 years ago. If the maps were navigational aids, rising waters could have abruptly rendered them obsolete, their purpose forgotten as shorelines retreated, the most haunting possibility. These carvers might have seen their doom coming. Some grooves resemble tidal patterns or glacial moraines, features visible only during periods of dramatic environmental flux. One slab's spiraling design mirrors hurricane cloud formations seen in sediment studies from the same era. Were these maps not just records but warnings? A civilization aware of impending disaster might have poured its remaining resources into creating durable knowledge repositories, desperate to preserve what they couldn't save. Yet climate alone can't explain everything. Other cultures endured the same shifts. The Inuit adapted to ice ages, the Mesopotamians weathered droughts and left abundant evidence behind. Why would the Ural builders vanish so completely? Unless their society was already hanging by a thread, their numbers too small to sustain catastrophe. Or perhaps their legacy isn't gone, just unrecognized. The Denisovans who once roamed these mountains left behind little more than a finger bone and some teeth until genetic analysis revealed their vast influence. Could the mapmakers be another ghost lineage, their artifacts waiting to be reclassified? The unsettling truth is that Earth's climate machine doesn't just erase civilizations, it reshuffles their remnants beyond recognition. Pollen samples show the Ural's vegetation shifted from pine forests to tundra and back again multiple times. Each transition would have buried and exposed the slabs like tides over stone, scattering any surrounding artifacts beyond recovery. If we're searching for a lost culture in this geological kaleidoscope, we might be digging in the wrong epoch entirely. The answers could lie deeper, or worse, they might have already washed away, leaving only these cryptic grooves as their final message. Among the grooves and channels of the Ural Relief Maps, certain patterns emerge that defy simple explanation. Clusters of marks arranged with such deliberate rhythm, they almost resemble writing. Not quite pictographs, not quite alphabets, but something in between. These sequences repeat at irregular intervals, some appearing as neat rows of dots, others as interlocking sigils that twist like vines across the stone. To the untrained eye, they might seem random, but there's an unsettling cadence to them, as if the carvers were following rules too arcane for modern minds to grasp. Linguists who have studied the slabs compare these symbols to the world's most stubborn undeciphered scripts, the Vinca symbols of ancient Europe, the Rongorongo glyphs of Easter Island, or the infamous Voynich manuscript, that botanical cipher that's eluded cryptographers for centuries. Like those enigmas, the Ural patterns resist classification. They don't match any known writing system, yet their repetition suggests intentional communication. One particularly haunting section near the base of a slab shows a sequence of 7 shallow depressions, each spaced precisely 5 centimeters apart, followed by a single zigzagging line. It recurs 3 times across the stone's surface, always in the same order. A tally, a prayer, a warning. Every attempt to pass it collapses into speculation. The challenge isn't just the symbols themselves, but the lack of context. Decipherment thrives on anchors. The Rosetta Stone worked because it paired Greek with hieroglyphs. The Ural carvings float in isolation with no parallel texts, no bilingual inscriptions, not even accompanying artwork to hint at their meaning. Computer analysis has yielded little help. When researchers fed high-resolution scans into pattern recognition algorithms, the software flagged the sequences as non-random, but couldn't align them with any linguistic or mathematical models. Unlike linear scripts that flow left to right or top to bottom, these markings spiral, converge, and branch unpredictably, as if designed to be read in 3 dimensions rather than 2. Even more frustrating are the false leads. In 2012, a team from Novosibirsk claimed to have matched a subset of the symbols to early Proto-Uralic petroglyphs found near the White Sea. The correlation seemed promising until closer study revealed the matches were superficial, like mistaking a child's doodle for a mathematical equation. Another group tried overlaying the patterns with constellations, theorizing they might encode astronomical data. While a few grooves loosely mirrored star positions from 9,000 years ago, the majority deviated wildly, leaving the theory in tatters. The closest parallel might be the quippus of the Andes knotted cords used by the Inca to record data. Like the Ural carvings, quippus convey meaning through tactile sequences rather than visible letters. But while quippus followed a decimal system, the Ural patterns defy numerical logic, their grammar locked away in a cipher without a key. Perhaps the most chilling possibility is that these aren't words or numbers at all, but something else entirely. Dr. Elena Vasiliev, a cognitive archaeologist, suggests the marks might represent procedural memory triggers, physical prompts meant to guide rituals or techniques through touch rather than sight. Indigenous Siberian shamans still use notched sticks to memorize chants, running their fingers along the grooves to recall each verse. Could the Ural slabs be a monumental version of this practice? Without living tradition bearers to interpret them, we're left with silence. The stones whisper in a language we've forgotten how to hear, their messages fossilized in rock, waiting for the day someone or something remembers the code. The cold, mist-shrouded valleys of the Urals have long been a backdrop for shadowy government activity, from Soviet gulags to modern military installations. Given the Ural Relief Maps' staggering precision and unexplained origins, it's hardly surprising that whispers of official interest persist. Declassified documents reveal that the KGB's 5th Directorate, tasked with investigating paranormal phenomena, quietly dispatched a team to the site in 1983, shortly before the map's public discovery. Witnesses reported men in unmarked uniforms taking plaster casts of the grooves, while geologists accompanying them carried radiation detectors and strange, humming devices never identified. The team vanished after 3 days, leaving behind only flattened grass and a single abandoned notebook filled with measurements later described as too precise for hand recording. Decades later, a leaked 2015 memo from Russia's Ministry of Defense mentioned anomalous mineral formations in the Urals being assessed for non-standard navigational applications. The phrasing is vague, but the timing aligns with satellite images showing unusual vehicle tracks leading to the map's location during a harsh winter, a season when even local hunters avoid the area. More telling, in 2019, a crew from Moscow State University arrived to conduct laser scans, only to find the site cordoned off by armed guards citing geological hazard protocols. The researchers were turned away, yet drones flown by amateur explorers weeks later showed no signs of landslides or instability, just fresh excavation marks near the largest slab. The most compelling thread connects to Soviet experiments with infrasound, low-frequency waves capable of influencing human psychology. Classified papers from the 1970s describe Project Crystal, an initiative exploring how ancient stone structures might naturally amplify such frequencies. Blueprints recovered from a demolished military archive depict a device eerily resembling the Ural slab spiral patterns, labeled resonance modulator. Were the maps reverse-engineered for psychological warfare, or did the Soviets believe they'd stumbled upon pre-existing technology? The few officials who have commented publicly dismiss the idea, but their reluctance to permit independent testing speaks louder than words. Then there's the indigenous testimony. Mansi elders recall helicopters circling the site during perestroika, dropping unidentified crates that soldiers hauled into the forest. One hunter claims to have seen men in radiation suits chiseling samples from the slabs under floodlights, their tools emitting a high-pitched whine like angry mosquitoes. These accounts can't be verified, but they align with a pattern. Whenever mainstream science edges closer to unraveling the mystery, access mysteriously tightens. Whether the government knows more than it admits or simply fears what might be uncovered, the maps remain trapped between official silence and mounting speculation, a riddle wrapped not just in stone but in the opaque legacy of state secrets. Today, visiting the Ural Relief Maps feels like stepping into an open-air mystery, one balanced precariously between discovery and decay. The main site lies tucked away in a remote stretch of the Ural foothills, accessible only by a rough, unpaved road that disappears into the taiga for the final 10 kilometers. There are no signs, no visitor centers, just a weathered rope barrier and a small plaque installed by a local history society, its Cyrillic text faded by decades of harsh winters. The slabs themselves stand exposed to the elements, their surfaces a patchwork of deep carvings and newer scars, hairline cracks from frost heave, discolored streaks where lichen has taken hold, and in one heartbreaking corner, the gouged remnants of initials scratched by vandals in the 1990s. This fragile state has sparked fierce debates between archaeologists, conservationists, and the growing tide of curious travelers. On one side, researchers push for restricted access, pointing to the slow but steady weathering eating away at the grooves. Rainfall, once neutralized by dense forest canopy, now pools in the carvings as climate change thins the surrounding trees. Tourists, however well-intentioned, accelerate the damage. Oils from human hands degrade the sandstone over time, and even the lightest foot traffic dislodges stabilizing soil. A 2018 study by the Russian Academy of Sciences found that the shallowest carvings have eroded nearly 20% since their documentation in the early 2000s. Yet locking the site away poses its own risks. Local guides argue that controlled tourism might be the map's best defense. In the nearby village of Staraya Guta, a grassroots collective now offers guided hikes to the slabs, teaching visitors to observe without touching while funneling funds into preservation. Their efforts mirror strategies at Peru's Nazca lines, where viewing platforms and drone monitoring have reduced vandalism without cutting off public access. The difference: Nazca has UNESCO backing and government funding. The Ural Relief Maps rely on a handful of underpaid volunteers armed with brushes and resin sealant. The tension between exposure and protection reached a breaking point in 2021 when an influencer's viral drone footage sparked an influx of unsupervised visitors. Within months, graffiti appeared on two lesser-known slabs, and a section of one carving collapsed when a tourist attempted to pry loose a souvenir. The incident forced regional authorities to install motion-activated cameras and impose hefty fines for trespassing, a solution that satisfied no one. Scholars decried the delayed response, while adventure bloggers accused officials of hiding history. Perhaps the most promising middle ground comes from technology. Three-dimensional scanning projects like the one undertaken by the Ural Federal University in 2023 aim to create digital replicas accessible to anyone with an internet connection. These high-resolution models preserve every groove and fissure in millimeter-perfect detail, offering researchers and enthusiasts alike a way to study the maps without physical intrusion. But even this innovation carries a bittersweet edge. Each scan serves as both a record and a eulogy, documenting carvings that may not survive the century. Meanwhile, the indigenous Mansi and Conti communities watch these struggles with quiet resignation. For them, the debate misses a fundamental truth: the stones were never meant to be preserved behind glass or pixels. Their oral traditions speak of living monuments that breathe and change with the land, their meanings evolving as the carvings weather. One elder put it bluntly: "You worry about saving the lines, but the lines were always meant to fade." The land remembers what your cameras cannot. The challenge, then, isn't just how to protect these artifacts, it's how to honor them as both historical treasures and active participants in a landscape that refuses to be frozen in time. Every brushstroke of conservation resin, every tourist's hushed whisper, every pixel of a digital model becomes part of their story, layering new meaning onto grooves carved by hands we'll never know. After decades of study, the Ural Relief Maps remain stubbornly resistant to explanation, each unanswered question peeling back another layer of our assumptions about the past. Who crafted these stones? If they were the work of human hands, why has no trace of their tools, workshops, or settlements ever surfaced in the surrounding taiga? The Denisovans, the Mansi ancestors, even hypothetical lost civilizations, none left behind matching artifacts that could explain the map's precision. The absence is deafening. Without tools, without waste flakes from carving, without so much as a campsite's hearthstone, we're left staring at masterpieces with no evidence of the masters. Then there's the how. Modern engineers struggle to replicate the groove's consistency even with diamond-tipped bits and laser guides. Yet these carvings show no signs of trial runs or corrections, just unerring confidence, as if the creators worked from a perfected blueprint. The sandstone itself adds another wrinkle. Its density varies subtly across each slab, yet the carving depths remain uniform, suggesting the artisans compensated for differences in hardness instinctively. Even more perplexing are the quartz veins integrated into the designs. Their inclusions align with certain grooves like intentional embellishments, natural coincidence, or evidence of a technique we've yet to comprehend. Purpose may be the most haunting riddle. Were these maps functional, guiding travelers through terrain or celestial events? Ritual objects meant to bridge worlds during shamanic journeys? Or something more unsettling, a message or warning meant to outlast its creators? The indigenous Mansi speak of stone teachers, but what lessons were they meant to impart? The lack of wear patterns on some grooves suggests portions were rarely touched, while others show polish from countless hands, as if only initiates knew which paths to trace. These mysteries collide violently with conventional history. The map's suspected age coincides with eras when humanity was supposedly mastering fire and basic agriculture, not precision lithography. If an advanced culture did exist here, why did its influence leave no mark elsewhere? The paradox cuts to the core of how we reconstruct the past. We build narratives from fragments, but what happens when the most compelling fragments refuse to fit? The Urals force us to confront uncomfortable gaps in our knowledge, not just about who we were, but about what humans are truly capable of when pushed to the edge of survival. Perhaps the most humbling realization is that these stones may not be anomalies at all, but glimpses of a norm we've forgotten. History isn't a straight line, it's a spiral where technologies rise, vanish, and reappear in different forms. The Antikythera mechanism wasn't supposed to exist in ancient Greece. Göbekli Tepe wasn't supposed to predate agriculture. Now the Ural Relief Maps whisper that our timeline might be missing more than we dare admit. Until the stones choose to speak, they stand as both monument and provocation, a challenge carved not just in rock, but in the very way we measure progress itself. The Ural Relief Maps stand as silent sentinels of an unsolved riddle, their grooves whispering questions we're still scrambling to answer. After centuries of human progress, after unraveling the secrets of pyramids and decoding lost languages, these slabs remain stubbornly out of reach, a humbling reminder that history still holds pockets of profound mystery. Whether crafted by forgotten geniuses, shaped by forces we can't yet comprehend, or something in between, they defy easy categorization. They don't fit neatly into our timelines or textbooks, and perhaps that's exactly what makes them unforgettable. Think of all the theories we've explored: ancient navigation tools, celestial maps, shamanic portals, even encoded warnings from a lost world. Each explanation shines a flickering light on one facet of the puzzle, only to cast deeper shadows elsewhere. The maps resist certainty, dancing just beyond the edge of understanding. And isn't that thrilling? In an age where algorithms predict our tastes and satellites map every inch of the globe, these stones remind us that wonder still exists, that some mysteries refuse to be clickbait solved. So where does that leave us? Not with frustration, but with possibility. The Urals invite us to stay curious, to question the stories we've been told about the past. Maybe the answers lie buried in uncharted soil, waiting for a sharper tool, a fresh perspective. Or maybe the real magic is in the asking itself, the collective itch to know, to poke at the edges of the unknown. Now it's your turn. Look at these ancient grooves and tell me, what do you see? A prehistoric blueprint, a ritual artifact, or something nobody's dared to suggest yet? Drop your wildest theories in the comments. Every idea adds another thread to this tangled web. And if you're hungry for more enigmas that defy explanation, hit that subscribe button. From vanished civilizations to artifacts that shouldn't exist, we're just getting started. The past is stranger than we've been taught, and together, we're going to